So welcome to the second lesson in this mini-series that's designed to fast-track your learning of the Python programming language by creating an exciting and complete project, in this case, as you know, a dating program. Now in this lesson, we'll be making a profile and within it some features such as the ability to search by gender, hobby, age, or whatever you choose. So imagine you've successfully registered and logged in. So we had Joe Blogs. He's logged in, he's now in his profile, and he's ready to start dating. What's one of the first things you might do? There are potentially millions of single people out there. Where do you start? Well, you might want to start by narrowing down the search. Say, search by gender, by female, male. You could also search by personality type. Now, of course, it would depend on what you'd coded in terms of what's stored in the file. So the data that was entered is what you'll be able to use in your program going ahead. Don't forget decomposition. We're still breaking down every problem. In terms of our dating system, we've now completed the main menu. We've done the register screen, the login screen. As you can see on the right-hand side, we're now going to do a profile. We're going to skip the Find My Match for now, and we're going to do search for users based on a couple of different criteria. I'm going to show you how to do one or two of them. Hopefully you can then go ahead and do the rest. So this is a brief flow diagram showing what would be happening on the profile screen. We have some options presented to the user. They can start their search. If they press 1, they go to the search menu. They press 2, they go to the match magic, the secret algorithm. That's going to come later. And finally, in the search menu, which is a whole new menu of its own, it's going to have different options such as search by gender, age, keyword, etc. And each of those things is going to be its own little mini module as well. So think about the inputs. Again, pretty simple at this point. In the search and profile, the user can enter an option, 1 or 2. And for gender, he can enter M or F, and it would present him in the output with a list of males or a list of females. Here's the code if you would like to pause the screen and do it yourself without following along. Or as mentioned in the previous video, just download the PowerPoint and you can get this video which gives you the code that you can go through and also see a demo of how it works. So here we are back in the main menu, and we can see the bits that we've done. We've got the register screen, we've got our file which we're writing data to, and we log in, obviously checking to see that we're logging in with the details that are stored in the file, and that's in the login screen. So what we're going to do now is create a little subroutine for a profile. And we do that in the same way that we've done before. So we've got def profile and welcome to your profile. We're also going to make another one for the search. And these are the two bits which we're going to add in this particular lesson. Now remember, the search subroutine is going to be like a menu in itself, where you can say what you're searching for. You can be searching by date or gender or keyword, and the profile is what they land in after they've logged in. Now it's important to know that if you have a subroutine and it is empty, like how I just showed, then it will not run. So it has to have something in it. You can even write pass in it, and that will be fine. But for now, we're just going to write print welcome to your profile. But if it is empty, it will come up with an error. So we're now going to start filling in that profile. Now you've noticed that in the login screen, when a user has successfully logged in, access is granted, and then we want them from that point to jump to the profile. So I'm going to type in a call to the profile on line 70, as you can see. And I also want, when they go to the profile, to pass a parameter to the profile, which is in this case going to be the username. And that's something we'll do at a later stage. So for now, we're just going to add some empty prints, which just is going to give us some blank spaces when we land up in the profile. I can actually put that before the message which says welcome to your profile, and scroll down a little bit so we have some space. We're now going to have a variable called choice, and remember this choice variable is holding string input. So we're going to write enter S if you want to search, or M if you want us to do the magic for you, to go to the matchmaking algorithm. We now have some selection. Don't forget when you're writing an if statement to have the double equal sign. So if choice equals equals, and then we've got or choice. This is just giving an option so that if they type in a lowercase s or capital S, in both cases they will be allowed to make that choice. So if that happens, then we jump to the search subroutine, which we've created, and else, or elif in this case, if the choice is something else, in this case m or small m, then we jump to the matchmaking algorithm, which is going to be done in lesson 3. So it's worth just quickly making that matchmake so that we don't get an error when we try to call it. So we can test it to see what happens if you log in as a user. I'm just going to log in as Joe B member with a password of open123, and you can refer to the file. And if I type in S, you can see that it takes me to the search menu. So now in this search menu, we're going to give additional options, and I'm going to come back to my triple quotation marks, which allows you to have some sort of a menu. Remember, if you have single quotation marks, it prints something like a sentence to the screen, but if you have a vast amount of information, like as I'm typing now, it's better to use triple quotation marks and have the text in between those triple quotations. So we've got our 4 options, which are gender, date, keyword, and of course we want an option which returns us back to the main menu. In the same way that we did in the actual main menu and in the search, the subroutine before this, we need another variable saying choice and giving them the option again, and this time going through all the choices 1, 2, 3, 4 and allowing them to make that choice. So in this case 1 would be gender, elif choice is equal to 2 would be date, and so on. And finally, the 4th choice would return them back to the main menu. The reason it's coming up with a bit of a mistake over there is, for one, we haven't cast the input. So the input is at the moment a string, and we want to cast it or convert it into an integer. So just around that variable choice, you put brackets in and prefix it with int. So int, open brackets, choice, close brackets. And we do that in all instances. So remember, all that does is it takes the input, which was taken into the variable choice, which was a string input, and converts it. We now have a little error there for gender, so we quickly make a gender subroutine and one for date as well, so that we don't get the errors. But we can just say pass in them, and I'll just put them at the bottom. Don't forget that your main menu subroutine is the call to the main menu is right at the bottom and all the way to the left. It shouldn't be inside any subroutine. So that is basically where the program starts. If you changed that to something like profile, then the program would start at profile. At the moment, as you can see, it starts at main menu. So we're now going to attempt to fill in another subroutine and a bit of logic and the algorithm for the keyword search. Remember, you could do things like for gender, where you show a list of people who are of a certain gender. And actually, let's do that one first, and then we can come back to the keyword subroutine. So we print and we tell them what that subroutine is for, in this case search by gender. We print narrow down the search and we have a little variable. Again, this could be anything. You could call it something, but it's going to take an input which needs to match with what's in your file. So again, this is a bit of file handling. So again, you can just go back to where you have opened your file before and cut and paste it. And remember, you can either open something in append mode or read mode. Reading is if you're just reading it and you want to log in or read it and view the data. Write is if you want to actually write something to the file. So I'm just going to type it. So again, you have with open and you write in the name of the file, which in this case is dating.txt. And we're opening it in read mode as F. Here we're asking the user for some input, and in this case it's gender. We're asking them to enter a gender, male or female. Who are you looking for? So gender is the variable, and we're putting the user's input, whether they type in M or F, and we're storing it in that variable called gender. So we need a reader, of course, using the CSV reader and reading that file in. And now that we've got the reader set up for that particular file, dating.txt, we're going to use a for loop to go through all the rows and all the fields, and we're going to search for all the fields that have a gender of whatever they've specified. So for every row in this text file, that's a row. And remember, each of those specific entities that are being pointed at now are fields. So patients is a field, Joe member is a field, open123 is a field. So for each of those individual fields, we're going to be searching for gender equals whatever they've entered. So if the field is equal to gender, which is our variable, then print, and now we want to print the entire row which did have the gender that we were looking for. So remember, the gender is the variable that we're looking for, and they put it in. We can see that in the text file it's been written in as M, and we don't have any F's there. Be useful to have at least one, and that's just because we're going to be printing the rows, so it might be useful just to copy and paste an existing row or record and change it to another female. So we can now test it out. We type in Joe B, who is our user, open123. He'd like to search, and he's going to be looking for something. I typed in the keyword search, which is at the moment empty, so let's just do that again. We enter his username, his password, we search, and this time we search by gender. So enter the gender that you're looking for. If I typed in F, as you can see, and it correctly does so, it only gives you all the females, which is stored in the dating file, in the dating.txt file. Now, another useful thing that we might want to do is search by keyword. And remember, you can do things, you can do any amount of different features that you can think of, such as date or anything else, hobbies, and that would be dependent on what you have in your dating.txt file and the registration screen. But for now, let's do a keyword search, which is literally if you type in anything which correlates to a field in the dating.txt, it would print out the records of those people. So say you were looking for patience, it would look up all the people in the dating.txt file which have patients listed in their profile. So we start by having a Boolean flag. Remember, a Boolean flag can either be true or false. And we're going to start off by saying word found, which is the Boolean flag variable, is equal to false. I'm going to use it in what's called a while loop. And this time, remember the first line of the while loop is actually the condition, the stopping condition. So we're saying while the word found is equal to false, which it is, then do all this stuff which is inside the while loop, such as open the file in read mode, ask the user to input a keyword, whatever they're looking for. Remember, at the moment the keyword has not been found, it's still false, so everything in this loop is continuing. As usual, we open the reader, we initialize the reader to read all the contents of the file. And then we use a for loop. And a for loop is looping through or iterating through, that's the correct term for it, every row in the reader that we've just read in, which is all the contents of the file, and for every field in the row, similar to what we did for gender, it's saying if the field is equal to the keyword that they put in, so if any field in that file is equal to the keyword that they've entered, then print the whole row. And now, obviously, at this point, we want to break out of the loop because we found our keyword. So the moment we say word found is equal to true, we actually break out of that while loop because the condition on line 108 is no longer true. So while word found is equal to false, only then do that. And obviously, if we turn it to true, right at the end there, it stops. So we break out of the while loop and we're no longer in that while loop. So you can see I have a couple of different members here, all with patience, so it might be a useful idea to just change some of them. So I've got one with patience, two with patience now, laid back and leadership. And we can do a test. So we search. This time we search by keyword, and if I type in patience, you can see that it actually only returns the two members which are in dating.txt, which have patience listed in their profiles. And you can do the same thing. If you asked for laid back, it would show Ruth, or leadership would show Tara. So I'd encourage you to go ahead and fill in the rest of these features as you're able. And you could even go and develop your registration screen to make it more interesting. So in the next lesson, we're going to be looking at some tips and tricks on how to become more independent in your coding. You should be able to, at this stage, think of something that you'd like to do or achieve, look it up, and actually be able to implement it. We're also going to look at the magic matchmaking algorithm, look at things like local and global variables, passing parameters, and also a very important concept called CRUD, which will include how to edit a value in a Python file. So lots to look forward to. See you in the next lesson.